Okay. So, the paper you wrote was dealing with Amazon Echo, right? Okay. And what were you supposed to discuss?
How it's going to change the way we do things at home and the way we do things in the future.
Okay. Well, what do you think?
I think that this whole product is very, very creepy.
It's creepy. Okay. In what way is it creepy?
Well, if it's sitting over there, like learning your foot patterns, your voice patterns, and every pattern about you, that's pretty creepy to the point where, like, Amazon is gonna know.
Okay. So, what are all the things that it learns about you?
Pretty, like your purchasing patterns, like your voice, your schedule, because they don't know whether or not it's reading when you come in the door and when you leave out. So it's learning pretty much literally everything.
Okay. Well, what else besides these?
I think this is cool because who cares about you? Like they don't care about you if you leave, if you go, if you purchase things. So for myself, I'm not that important person like around the world. So they know where I go, where I live, or what things I do or purchase. So I think this is cool because it's gonna help me save time. I mean, to save my time by purchasing things just by talking.
Okay. For example, what would you purchase specifically by talking to Echo? Give me an example of something you would do.
Like play music.
Okay. Well, that's not purchasing something.
Oh, you mean purchasing?
Yeah.
I might like purchase a book from Amazon or DVD. Like if I ask Echo about something, it will give me answer from Wikipedia.
Okay.
And then if this answer is not like enough, I could purchase a book or something similar.
Can you ask it how much a certain book is?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And then how would you actually go about purchasing the book?
I think it's connected with my
Your Amazon account. So you tell it, I want to buy that book.
Yeah.
Just add to the cart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, can you check out and everything? Or do you have to go to the website at some point?
I don't think so.
I think there is an option in the website to check if
So you could do like the one click,
yes, yeah,
or
there is an option.
the one shout to Echo. Okay. So can you imagine yourself actually utilizing it to purchase stuff for real?
I wouldn't even purchase the product, so no.
Well, let's say you had it. You have the product. So
I
you're
would try it at least.
Well, I'm saying, could you actually see yourself? Let's say you're watching TV, and you see, movie XYZ just came out on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Would you actually say, Echo, order me XYZ on Blu-ray? Would you actually do that, or would you probably go to a web browser, pull out your phone to order it?
I will pull out my.
Maybe in the future they will go with the voice, with Echo maybe. But these days I think it's still learning about the new device.
Mhm.
Technology.
I guess what I'm getting at is, would you trust it at this point for spending your money?
Yes.
In the first,
You would?
no.
Yeah.
In the first, no, just to try.
But the
No,
problem is, I
I
think,
think-
for me as a English second language speaker, I might have some problem. She might understand me wrong, so that's why I might
Well,
use the.
That's why it learns your
laptop.
speech patterns and voice recognition and everything else. It learns the way you speak and what you mean when you say a certain word.
But it's still, what he's saying is, it still could be challenged.
Yeah.
True.
Like Siri in the beginning.
Do you have an iPhone now?
Yeah.
Does Siri understand you fine?
Yeah. Now. Yeah. But I mean, the beginning once they announced Siri, I had like a bad time with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you use Siri, are you speaking English?
Yes.
Okay,
Just English.
just English.
Does it know any of them?
Hey, Siri knows a bunch of languages.
Oh, that's
Yes.
creepy. Cool, but kind of stupid.
You think everything's creepy, don't you?
Yes, I mean, technology that knows your life, it knows when you're.
But isn't that convenient?
If it knows your breathing patterns, it's gonna know when you're doing the.
Yeah.
You
So
know? So that's weird. That's gross. That's private.
But it's a piece of technology. It'd be different if it was like tweeting.
Yeah, but
About-
you don't know what they're doing with the information they're reading on you.
Okay, so from a security perspective, you have concerns about what Amazon's capturing with this.
Right. And
Okay, not so
how
much
they're-
the utility of the device, but how much you're exposing yourself to
Amazon
data collection or something like that. Okay, that's fair enough.
I mean, like, because once somebody hacks into your cloud, it's a wrap. They got all your information.
Mhm.
They got
I got it.
everything. So, yeah, creepy.
Okay. So you probably wouldn't use it to purchase stuff.
I wouldn't use it to do nothing.
Okay. Play music, no big deal, right?
Well, that maybe.
You could use it to play music, not a big deal.
Mhm.
Okay, asking it questions. How many tablespoons are there in a whatever?
Yeah, that's.
Asking about the weather, like in my city or somewhere
Okay.
else.
Does this device need to exist? Let's say you're interested in how many tablespoons there are in a cup. Well, how do you get that answer now?
Google.
Okay. You go to a computer and search for it on Google?
Mhm.
Or are you pulling out your phone?
Pull out my phone or whatever. Or you can use the OK Google.
Sometimes when I came to be fun to use my phone, just talk the Amazon.
Okay. But do you have similar concerns that it might not understand you? Do you have similar concerns to him that it might not understand your English? Or over time, do you think it would probably just improve its language ability of you speaking to it?
That's it.
Okay.
So what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think how I would use it. So, for instance, if I need to know how many tablespoons there are in a cup, I can pull my phone out now, which is always on me. I have my phone on me at all times. So the answer is going to be right there, literally at my fingertips. Well, with Echo, I have to at least get within proximity of Echo. You know, so I have to go to that portion of the house at the very least. You know, so if I'm upstairs and Echo's downstairs, it's going to be more convenient for me to just pull my phone out and get that answer. And what Echo's given me is likely not going to be as deep of information. So I have a concern that the information I'd be getting from Echo is pretty shallow. So, you know, what's the weather today? Give me a certain, you know, answer. But if I want to dig deeper, there's going to be a limited interface with Echo because everything's done with voice. Where with my phone, I can dig deeper and look at the 10-day forecast and stuff like that. Good.
What do you think about it as a robot?
Well, from what perspective as a robot?
Like in your house, answering your questions, helping you to do things.
So more of the concept of it being ubiquitous. So I don't have to pull out my phone, press the Siri button, and say something. I could just speak.
Yeah.
Keyword Alexa, and then ask your question.
Well, only if you named it Alexa.
I thought it was.
No, I think you have to choose what you call it.
Amazon or Alexa?
Yeah, you have two options.
Oh, those are your only two options: Amazon or Alexa. Really?
They're trying to
can't-
be too much like Siri. I'm telling
You can't name it something else?
I don't think so.
Mm,
think so.
I don't think so. I didn't hear
It's
it.
not
I didn't
clear.
read anything about
It
that.
seems like you should be able to name it something else.
Yeah.
You know, but one. Go ahead.
I think in another, I believe it can create private profiles for your voice, or so you can ask something that your phone are not able to do. Like, is someone in home, or do you know where someone is,
Okay.
based on to-do list or something like the other profile?
Well, but isn't it storing it in the cloud anyway? So you could access it from your phone. The to-do lists and stuff like that.
It's not that useful. Just asking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I guess I view it as being a quick way, you know, like add milk to my to-do list, or to my, you know, to my shopping list. Add milk to my shopping list, something like that. You know, that could be helpful. One concern I maybe have with it is that it's going to have false positives in terms of picking up conversations. So I could be talking to my wife about, oh, do we need milk? And then all of a sudden, Echo's adding it to the shopping list or something like that.
Well, I did hear of Siri doing crazy stuff like that. Like my boyfriend's aunt, she was telling us how she was watching a movie, and the girl on the movie started screaming, and then next thing you know, Siri was like, "It's okay, Cheryl, you're gonna be all right." And then she looked at it like, "Oh Lord, this phone is possessed."
That is pretty funny though.
That is creepy.
I've had something similar happen with when iOS 8 came out, and I was messing around with the Siri functionality where you can just speak to it, where you don't have to push the button.
Mm-hmm.
And in my car, I listen to audiobooks all the time, and one of the books I'm listening to right now, one of the main characters is this guy named Eddie Chase. He's like Indiana Jones-y type character. And he's British. Well, every single time they would say Eddie Chase, my phone would launch the Chase Bank app. like every time. Go ahead.
What do you think about the price for this?
The price?
Yeah.
What is it? $199 or $99 if you're a Prime member?
Yeah.
$2.99 if you are not.
Just for short
No,
period for just specific client, they will send an email for them, and they can buy it $99 if you receive email from Amazon.
Right.
The regular price would be around $200.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what's my opinion at $200 for it?
Online.
Given what it seemingly does, I think it will be a flop. I don't think it'll do well. I think $200 for a product that just does that, lets you ask questions and stuff like that, which is really not doing anything that you can't already do.
Right.
You know, that's really the issue. It's not doing anything that you can't already do.
They change our way to search for information. Usually when we like to give information, we go there. But now we use our voice. So they just jump from text to voice. So
I guess a concern I have is that natural languages, just English and things like that, just speaking to a device, can only go so far. If you do voice dictation or stuff like that on your phones, you see how much it misses. Like I voice dictate all the time, and so people who get text messages from me know that I voice dictate the text messages. So they know that there's going to be a margin of error in all my text messages, and sometimes it really messes up the sentences. All right. So the idea is that now you have this device sitting in your living room that's going to be doing the same thing in real time. Is it really going to never have a mistake? I can imagine these funny situations early on where you say one thing and it thinks you said something else, and starts giving you different answers. At first that's funny, then it's annoying, and then you just stop using the product. So the question is it, since it's activated just by your voice, is it too ubiquitous? That kind of gets down to what you were saying with maybe the security, the privacy aspect of it. Sometimes we want to go to our technology when we want to go to our technology, not just have our technology there all the time. So I guess I could see that. And you mentioned robots. So let's take this a step further. Let's say that Echo, it's evolved to basically have a robot butler. So an actual cyborg robot thingy in your house that's doing chores and grabbing you a soda and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it sounds cool on paper, but would you actually want that? See, I wonder. It's one of those things that at first, oh yeah, I want that, but I wonder what negatives come out of that. What are the downsides to having a robot cleaning your house? And
people become lazy. It's not going to be cleaned thoroughly, and it's just
every single movie that has that kind of stuff in it ends with the robots taking over.
exactly. And I mentioned that in my paper.
Every one of them. Starts with Amazon Echo. Next thing you know, they're stealing your car.
Well, I was reading an article about Echo, and it was saying how it can also control other stuff that's Bluetooth enabled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Well, if the electricity go out, you're screwed. You, especially if you don't know how to use your own stuff manually.
I guess that's
Like,
true. You become so reliant on the technology that you can't use your own things. So,
Exactly.
but I mean, but we have tons of examples of stuff like that.
True, and if
Um,
Wi-Fi goes out or you can't pay your bill, you know.
Well, you can go back farther. I mean, there's a lot of people who can only drive an automatic vehicle. Never had to drive a stick. So if they,
Hey, don't.
well, I'm just saying that's a true statement, right?
Yeah.
So you could just keep, back in the, how many of you have ever cranked a car on if you had to go out to the front and turn, like the Model Ts? You see, we keep evolving. Does that mean we shouldn't evolve? Just, let's just stick with what we're used to, then,
Keep it simple, stupid. Boom.
Well, simple was back in our early cars when you got in and there was only one gear and you just went. It was simple.
That's why it's so simple to use an automatic.
But cars didn't go fast enough for us, so we had to make them faster. So we had multi-gear cars. Then they couldn't go far enough, so we had to build bigger gas tanks in them. Stuff like that. So I think sometimes those things aren't quite as clear as we might think. But at the very least, I think Echo is an interesting product. I think initially, it's going to kind of fall into a similar category as Google Glass has fallen into, where it's not a bad idea. And frankly, if it wasn't Amazon making it, I might feel better about it. Not that I have anything against Amazon. I order stuff from Amazon all the time, but Amazon, much like Google, has a track record of being good at only one or two things. So Amazon is the king of online shopping. They do that very well. Google, king of search. Secondarily, they've done pretty well with Gmail, right? Tertiarily, they've done pretty well with Google Docs. Outside of that, I'm not sure they've done great with anything else.
What about Android?
Android.
Okay. I guess you can say Android too. That's fair. That's fair. So four technologies. How many technologies has Google introduced?
Google Maps?
Doesn't.
Google Maps. It's a fifth. You think a dozen?
100.
Hundreds. Now that's cool from Google's perspective. I think I maybe mentioned it last class, or I've at least mentioned it in one of my classes recently. Google almost always is rated as one of the top companies to work for. One of the things they do is they pay you 1 day a week to do your own stuff. They want you working on projects that have nothing to do with your job at Google, and they just get first dibs at buying your technology if they want. They have all sorts of people that work for Google that end up creating startup companies out of Google's ecosystem, and Google either gets to shake your hand and wish you luck, or buy the technology from you if they want.
So would you say if the Echo was Apple product, it will be successful?
I think if it was an Apple product, I say yes, it would be successful, but I don't think Apple would release something like this anytime soon. Apple tends to be pretty slow moving when it comes to, we think of Apple as being an innovation company, which they are, but their innovation really goes with usability. So it's the marrying the device, the software, and the how they intend for you to use it, putting all three of those things together. So I don't think Apple their ecosystem doesn't really support the concept of just jumping feet first into a whole new product line like this. I could see them coming out with something based on Siri like this, but it would very much be Siri, not something that's trying to be more than Siri. I guess that's, in the big scheme of things, I would say Siri was a pretty big risk for Apple. Kind of being that first personal assistant-y type of thing. And at first, it was a little bit hit and miss. It was the butt of a lot of jokes. People, all the posts were about, what things you can ask Siri, like Siri, what's a good place to hide a body, that kind of stuff, the jokes. And now it's like, have you ever done that before? Asked your phone that? Yeah, Siri has a bunch of different comebacks. Like one of them was like, what, again? Yeah, or I found a good dumpster nearby. Just like jokey type responses like that. So over the years, Siri has gotten more entertaining, but Siri's evolved into that. In the early days of Siri, Siri wasn't nearly as good. Generally speaking, I actually use Siri for very little. Every now and then I might ask it a question, but generally I use voice dictation, which is not Siri, for doing text messages and email. And then I use the only feature, well, I use two features with Siri. I use the remind me to do something, remind me to take out the trash tonight at 10 p.m., something like that. And then I also use it for making appointments. Schedule a doctor's appointment on Wednesday at 9 a.m., something like that. So that's convenient for me. But I'd rather just pop into Google real quick and do a search and voice dictate exactly what I want to search for rather than have. I have used it for sports scores, I guess, on occasion. But generally speaking, I use Siri for scheduling and reminders. That's the extent of what I use it for. I think that's a very powerful feature in and of itself. I think it's kind of gimmicky that I can just ask Siri what's the current score of the Packers game. Fine, it might be convenient sometimes, but generally it's gimmicky. And that's where I kind of see Echo falling into that category, more of the gimmick side of things. And we've seen that on, a lot of the Android feature phones that have come out. The successful phones, the truly long-term successful phones, both on Apple side and the Android side, are phones that have flagship type of features. Not the quirky, stupid features. Like there was some 3D phone. Android that had a 3D screen, and that was useless. There was that one feature where it knew when you looked away and would pause the video and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that.
I mean, yeah, and the commercials that Samsung used to have for their Galaxy, where two dudes on the street would walk up and they wanted to share playlists, so just bumped them next. Nobody uses that. So it's the features that end up right. You use it, don't you?
He's a big fan of Android.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Android. It's when they push those specific features that are just like saying, we have 4,000 features, the other guy has 26 features. Oh, but by the way, all but 26 of our features are completely useless. It's just like fluff. I kind of see that coming out of a lot of different companies. Apple, and more recently your flagship Android carriers, Samsung, the Nexus phones, HTC, really, let's say those three. They're coming out with less stupid features.
Yes.
And now they're focusing more on hardware comparisons. That was the big thing when the newer iPhone came out, was that the Android proponents were saying that, oh, this is 2-year-old technology in, a phone. Well, so fine. I mean, really the driving force of that was Apple's always been anti-big screen, where, Samsung's had a big screen Note for a while. Okay, well, people kind of like big screens. Some people do. I mean, there's a lot of people that think this is too big. But hey, at least you had the choice on the Android side. You want a giant phone? Great, get the Galaxy Note. You don't want one so big? Don't get the Galaxy Note. Get one of the normal size phones, which were still bigger than the iPhone in most cases, right? So you at least had that choice as a consumer. Well, Apple always poo-pooed that. They didn't want to have different screen sizes. So when Apple announces something that's been around forever as, oh, the latest, greatest thing, the buzz gets to be, oh, it's 2-year-old technology. Problem was people were not comparing, pun intended, apples to apples. Yes, the screen size was the same size, but the hardware in these devices are substantially faster than stuff from 2 years ago. I think the 6 Plus, up until the new Note that just came out, has the highest benchmarks of any phone out there right now in terms of processing power. So that's not a 2-year-old chip. But, that was really Apple saying they were wrong. For a long time, Apple really stuck to the correct screen size is the 3.5-inch screen. the original iPhone size. That was the correct screen size. Then they kind of got bullied into releasing the 4-inch screen size. So like the 5 and the 5S, right? Oh, who knows? Yeah, I mean, you could speculate whether Steve Jobs would have let that happen or not let that happen. I don't know. Maybe. From a developer side of things, I've seen both sides, and it's actually interesting. In the early days of iPhone, well, in the early days of mobile application development, developers typically liked iOS better because we can write more polished applications. Because the tools for writing the applications made by Apple allowed us to specifically create interfaces for a set screen size. All iPhones have this screen size. Then they muddied the water a little bit by saying all iPhones have this screen size, or they have one that's just a little bit bigger, but it's the same width. Same width. But now, even before that started happening, you go over to the Android side and there's 50 different screen sizes, 50 different resolutions, 50 different hardware configurations. Some of them had GPS, some of them didn't. Some of them had a front-facing camera, some of them didn't. Just ad nauseum. Well, so Apple's complaint was always that Android was too fragmented. That was what they would say over and over and over and over again in their propaganda, right? Android was too fragmented. From a developer's perspective, I can agree with that. Writing an Android app is far more, that's fair, far more complex, because if you want it to look good on multiple devices, you have to create multiple interfaces for all these different screen sizes. That's problematic from a developer's perspective. Well, Apple, not as fragmented as the Android side, but really, they're just as fragmented as any individual carrier, any individual company on the Android side. Samsung, what do they have? They have really 2 screen sizes, the Galaxy and the Galaxy Note, right? Well, Apple being the equivalent of Samsung as a hardware manufacturer on the iPhone side, well, they're still selling the 4S, which is a 3.5-inch screen, the 5, 4-inch screen, 5S, 4-inch screen, the 6, which is a 4.7-inch screen.
5C.
5C is a stupid phone. It shouldn't have existed. 5C is the same thing as the 5. Yeah, so the 5C and the 5S came out at the same time. 5C is the 5 in a stupid plastic case. It was a wasted product. Apple should have just said, we came out with that because it will sell really, really, really well in China. And it did.
Well, that's what the C is for.
Oh, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. Well, stood for color, but whatever. Whatever. Point is that it bugged me then when Apple came out and said, we have 2 brand new phones releasing today. No, what you really did is you released a new phone, which is the 5S, and then you took all your extra parts that you've had from a year ago, and you put it into a cheap-to-make plastic case that you think will sell well in China. I don't have a problem with that. Just call a spade a spade. Don't tell me you have 2 new phones. Tell me that you think that this technology with this look will sell really well in China and we want some of their money. Cool. Stab me in the front. I'm totally fine with Apple making money. If that's what sells in China, which it did. 5C was a killer in China. Didn't sell anywhere else. But that's fine. Do it. But don't tell me it's a new phone.
Wait, why didn't the other one sell well in China?
Price.
So what the heck did they do?
I mean, I don't understand the Chinese consumer model, but the price, what little I understand is the Chinese cell phone and internet market is very controlled. And also the average income in China is very low compared to the United States. So, and Apple products even here are considered to be expensive.
Yes.
So they needed the lower cost device, plus I guess they like the cheesy colors, something like that. I don't know. It hit that model, just whatever it is that was made for kind of that. But in any case, for years, Apple was always talking about how Android's so fragmented. Well, I just used the example. Right now, Apple, as a hardware manufacturer, is more fragmented than Samsung as a hardware manufacturer. Apple has a 3.5, a 4-inch, a 4.6-inch, and a 5.7-inch. No, 5.5, 4.7-inch and a 5.5. 4 different screen sizes for cell phones. Then you have the iPad side of things, which we can, the 2 iPads, but they are the same screen size.
Like the iPad mini and the
Yeah, even though the screen's physical size is different, the resolution is a scalar of each other. So at least we have that going for us. And actually, that would be okay. If all the iPhones just did that, they just upscaled. So if the, a good example would have been when we went from the 3GS to the iPhone 4. The biggest jump there was they added the Retina display. Twice the resolution, but same aspect ratio. So fine, it had twice the number of pixels across, twice the number of pixels down. No big deal. So you design all your apps for the higher resolution and then just halves it down for the smaller one. Still looks fine. You only had to write one interface, just with a higher resolution graphics. Once they started screwing with real estate size, that's when things went out the window. But you do notice that Apple doesn't talk about Android being fragmented anymore. Right?
right.
So it's very interesting when you start looking at propaganda about these different things.
So for the operating systems, what do you think is it's a common question? Android or iOS is better or strong?
Okay, well, I'm going to blanketly say iOS is the better operating system, but it's still going to depend on the end user. Right off the, it's amazing how good Android is when you consider the number of different hardware configurations it's built to run on. I tell people that Android is solving the old Microsoft problem. They're writing a single operating system, like Windows, for a zillion different computers. So it's really amazing how good Android is given that. Apple is solving the old Apple problem. They're writing software for their own hardware. They don't have to worry about it running well on Samsung's.
Right.
They only have to worry about it running well on their own crap. Huh?
From the user perspective.
User perspective, the iOS operating system is a superior experience. At least in part because they're solving the easier problem. It's not surprising that it's more polished because they have less variables they have to work with. So it's not so much that Apple is great, Google sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's more that Google is solving a more difficult problem.
Right.
So
Dealing with many companies.
yeah, but it's not just screen sizes. It's also speed of the systems, different hardware that's on them. Even more recently, when iOS 8 came out, people who had people who had older iPhones complained how sluggish it was on there. So Apple probably tried to support devices they shouldn't have, but historically Apple's been pretty good about saying the new operating system will run on this device or newer. You can't put it on an older device because it won't run like we want it to run.
Maybe they want them to get new phones.
Well, that's definitely what they want them to do.
Yeah.
So that really might make you question why they would have even allowed you to put iOS 8 on an older phone. Unless their market research said that, well, if we only let them stay with iOS 7 and they're happy with it, they'll just stay with that phone.
Right.
Instead, let's force them into iOS 8 and hurt their experience so they have to come give us more money.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like Apple.
Today for this iPhone.
Mm-hmm. But you could have easily just said, that sounds like Apple. You could have replaced that. That sounds like Google. That sounds like Microsoft. That sounds like IBM. They're all the same. Go ahead.
Which is the biggest country to sell the cell phone? China or United States?
Which is the country that sells the most? Probably China.
So Apple created the 5C to market in China. I think because the regular iPhones that succeed in China, or you just said they created this iPhone C because they were
The iPhone was not in China before then. So China did not have the iPhone as part of their ecosystem. Apple, through that release of the iPhone 5C, Apple created an agreement with one of the big cell phone manufacturers in China or cell phone carriers in China to get the iPhone into China. So for a long time, that's been kind of a destination that Apple wanted to get into, which is interesting since a lot of their manufacturing plants are in China. Apple's own products weren't really prevalent in China except for at the time of manufacturing. But I don't know. It's just when you look at these companies through different lenses, you get to see all sides. So for instance, you said you're an Android fan. That's fine, right? Okay, so I assume that one of the features you really like about Android is that you can look at Flash stuff on your web browsers, right? Okay, open up a Flash site, it won't run in your web browser. But Android users are historically lulled into that. Because remember, several years ago, that was the big thing. Apple doesn't support Flash, Android does. Then all of a sudden, Android took away the support for Flash. Why? Oh, because Apple was kind of right. Flash for mobile sucked. But, Android didn't say that they took it away. They just stopped saying that Apple doesn't have it and we do. It's true. Yeah, if you didn't know that, sometime try to go to a web page that has Flash on it and won't run in your browser. They took it away. Flash kills your battery life. Yeah, it's not so much that the technology is crap. It's that the technology is old. And the mobile version of Flash was based off of the desktop version of Flash. Even the desktop version of Flash, if you run it heavily on a laptop that's not plugged in, will drain your laptop battery fast. It's very battery inefficient. Just a bad technology for mobile. So, fine, Android supported it. Now they don't. Same thing with the early days of multitasking on mobile. Android had multitasking day one. iOS didn't. So Android used to brag, oh, we have multitasking, Apple can't, blah, blah, blah. Well, same time, well, not useless, but at the same time, people who were iPhone users would brag how their battery life was so much better than the Android user battery life. Why? Because it was a desktop-based multitasking model. All those applications you opened on Android stayed open. Every single one of them was using battery life. I mean, there's a problem when some of the most popular apps on the Android App Store is an app to close other apps.
Yes.
Right?
Very true.
There's some evidence there, right? So Apple's multitasking, which you could argue isn't even true multitasking. Apple's multitasking works differently. They have something that allows an app when it goes into the background to hook into one of about 7 or 8 different little features the operating system thinks you might want to do in the background, like play music, that kind of stuff, GPS. It's not going to let you continue a download in the background because that doesn't make sense on a mobile device. It does on your machine tethered to the wall. So Apple was late to the game with multitasking, but their multitasking model is a superior multitasking model for mobile.
Well, each company is playing, let's watch the other fail like this one and then build off of their knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. And we're really lucky as consumers that we have the two big players.
Right.
It's not like Apple versus Joe Nobody or Google versus Joe Nobody. We have two behemoth companies that are coming out with these things that have different ecosystems. So, Google is going to make decisions somewhat to compete with Apple, but also they're making decisions that they think meet their end users. Because this goes back to the question you asked, which is better? That's not as cut and dry as it should be. I can say that the user experience on Apple, on iOS, is probably superior because it just works. But there are things you can't do on iOS that some users won't be happy with. They want to be able to do that, and if that means the end user experience is a little bit, less polished, but it allows them to do all that crap, they're fine with it. It's the better product for them. We're lucky as consumers that we get the choice. I don't think iOS would be as good as it is without Android, and vice versa. Yeah, it's yeah, they're making a lot of money off you too.
That's true.
Yep. Apple's selling all their stuff in China.
Well,
Putting slow operating systems on your phones. You got to go buy a new phone.
that's why I don't have an Apple phone. They make too many.
Yeah, that's the advantage of Android up until recently. You have a Samsung?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have? A Samsung? HTC? Okay, actually, they're not in the new. Okay, so you're not running the newest Android operating system.
No, it's a KitKat.
Okay, you're running KitKat. So you're running two versions ago? One version ago.
No, one.
One version ago. Okay, because there's not an update for yours yet. There probably will be in like maybe a month. Yeah, that's when you'll be able to get the update. But before this, only Nexus phones, the Nexus phones for Android, got the updates immediately because Google makes the Android operating system for the Nexus. Nexus is actually produced by Asus, the company, but that's the phone that Google tests their operating system
The
on.
new one is made by Motorola, right?
Yeah,
Nexus
Nexus 6.
Right, but now Google has a new thing they've worked out with several of the phone companies. Samsung is in it. I don't think HTC is. I don't know why, but I don't think they are. But it's Samsung, it's Nexus, and I think there's one other company.
LG.
Maybe it's LG. But the point is when a new Android OS drops, all of those will get the update day one. So all those companies have kind of agreed to stop manipulating the operating system. You know, the funny thing, and they don't do it anymore from Samsung, but in some of the early Galaxy phones, the phones were what were lovingly called binged. So you'd have a Samsung Galaxy phone running Google's Android operating system, and everything on it was Microsoft Bing. Yeah, they probably had some big lucrative deal with Microsoft, so they had to go in and modify the Android operating system to the point that anything Google turned into Microsoft. Hotmail or MSN Mail was your email client on there. All searching was defaulted to, was defaulted to Bing, stuff like that. I mean, those of you who are Android users, your Google account is pretty required for Android, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, everything is about your Google account on Android. Imagine if you had to manipulate that operating system to take that feature away. You're changing the operating system a lot. So, kind of an interesting thing. And so one thing Google's done over the last about 6 months is they're trying to rein in control of their operating system a little bit more. Trying to convince some of these companies that for years have been, because it's open source, these companies could certainly change it if they wanted to. Google's trying to convince them maybe don't change it. So people can have, the newest, latest, greatest quicker. That type of thing. Where with Apple, new OS comes out, now you can update it without even plugging it into your computer. Just it updates over the air. So, it's a very interesting world that we live in from a technology perspective, and kind of swinging this back to the Amazon Echo thing. This is one more example of companies trying to come out with cool technology. But like I said, if it wasn't Amazon, I might have a little more faith in it, especially recently. Amazon's had a pretty crappy track record recently. The Fire phone, the Fire tablet, a Fire TV really have been big, big flops. And it's really one of those, it's a economics type thing. It's a company that has more money than it knows what to do with. It's the king of online retail. Why aren't they just happy with that? Right? Even their Kindles are losing market share because people are going over to iPads or one of the other tablets unless they're a die-hard reader, don't want all the other features from the tablets, but want the kind of the paper-like viewing experience so you can read outside. That's the only market they're holding on to. And then they're even hurting that market themselves with the Fire tablets, which don't have that screen. Yeah.
To me, it seems that Amazon just launched this product to collect information of your public. So
Yeah, that's what she was concerned with.
Yeah, and it does not. Amazon is not concerned in the utility of the product itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that the price is really low for that. So it's like they are giving the product to you. And
Do you think 200 is low?
100 it is.
100 I think is reasonable. 200 I don't think is low. The 199 is I think is their suggested retail right now, if you get one of their early invite things, which I have one. I don't have an Echo yet, but I'm a Prime.
You're gonna get it.
I'll probably order one just to use it and see what it's like, and then
And then it learns every single thing about you, and that's
I post it all on Facebook.
No,
It doesn't matter.
I'll try to give more features.
Say this again.
I'll try to give more features for Brandenburg.
Possibly, but I think that was really the direction Google Glass was trying to go. Really, Google Glass was supposed to be out in the market by now. For a long time, they were saying, okay, Google Glass, if you're a developer, you can go and buy a Google Glass for $1,500. That's what it was. So we have two of them in the department. We have two. I have a Google Glass, and Professor Wall has a Google Glass. Neither of us use it. Just sits there. It's a $1,500 paperweight. But when those first came out, this is almost 2 years ago, when Google Glass was first announced. The idea was by early that following year, so probably early 2014, we were supposed to see Google Glass hitting the shelves at a price of about $300. Well, $300 is substantially more palatable than $1,500.
That's true, but it's still,
But the problem is that device has problems. It's a cool idea, but it has a lot of features, a lot of usability problems. Having something you're having to look through that little lens isn't that usable.
no, it's
just
irritating actually.
Yeah, it's not that usable, and the battery life was terrible.
Do you heard about Alibaba website?
Alibaba?
Yeah.
Okay, what about it?
They compare with Amazon. Why we heard about Amazon? For me, I just heard about Alibaba website before 1 month.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is like the same size, maybe same size as Amazon. But everybody I think knows about Amazon. But Alibaba, I don't know. But
Well, Alibaba is just now going to start becoming more westernized. They had their public offering about 6 months ago that ended up being huge. We'll see how they play in more of the world market. It's is it Alibaba is Korean based? Chinese based. Okay, so
Or Indian.
it's in that part of the world, and it's not Indian, so it must be China. So it's in that part of the world. Their market is there. Okay, so one thing you need to be careful about when you're looking at technology that's coming out of really, let's say, China or India. Numbers can be skewed compared to you're looking at places that primarily their profit comes from the United States. They can be skewed because of the large populations of those countries. India and China both have populations far greater than the United States. So what? India's population is 4 times the size of the United States, and China's is even bigger than that.
Yes, 5 times.
Yeah. So it's not like the United States is small. Right? So, to have a population 4 or 5 times the size of the United States, your numbers are going to look pretty good in terms of number of users, number of purchases, things like that. But volume might be different once you actually get down under the hood. So we'll see. Now that it's a publicly traded company, and now they're out in the front of everybody, they're going to try to start competing neck and neck with the Amazons that are a worldwide carrier. Realistically, what you're saying is probably if you're in China, you don't order from Amazon, you order from Alibaba. So it's the but the rest of the world, nobody orders from Alibaba. It's Amazon. What's that?
I said about the Alibaba, it's like Chinese based, it's not Indian, I think so.
Yeah, I've seen the guy who does the for the public offering stuff. Yeah, definitely not an Indian guy.
the Chinese with United States too. I think they share this company. It's not only 100% Chinese. I think they started this business from United States. And
Oh, entirely possible.
Yeah, I
But their
read
target audience was China,
Yes.
not here.
I read about this.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if at least 80% of their sales wasn't someplace else, not here. Yeah. But I bet you the coin is flipped over there. You know, probably only 20% of the sales over there come from Amazon. And part of that is the Chinese government is very controlling of their technology. That was kind of the news this past week. There's a big summit in Beijing. I think it's Beijing, or Shanghai, one of the two. A big city in China. There's a big summit right now. And for the 3 or 4 day period that this conference was going on, they lifted they're no longer blocking their internet. You know, the internet is open. You know, just in that city. And they moved all the other population out of the city for the smog too. So the environment was breathable. So I mean, it's we have a couple of Indian students here, right? Not even from India. Is there a well, maybe you know, is there a heavy pollution problem in India as well?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of related to population, right? Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, you got India and China like right next to each other, they border each other. So you have something like, what, 70% of the world's population across those two countries? They'll take over before too long. Okay, anything else about Amazon Echo? Spent an hour on that, so... But it was a good conversation. I mean, you really see patterns that go out, and new technology is always fun to look at. Okay, so let's talk about the homework assignment. For the homework assignment, you were to extend, let me close all this stuff. Extend our cave to be a game, right? So the idea is when you first start the game, you should have what was the smallest cave? Cave size 4?
Yep.
And then it goes up by 2 each time? Okay. And the idea is that a player has completed a cave once they've collected all the treasures in a cave. And just so I can remind myself here where we left off, I do this. So this particular cave has 41 rooms in it. That would be a very deep level. Actually, it's a level that wouldn't exist because we jump by 2s, but whatever. And there's 17 treasures. So the idea would be that we have beat this level when our treasures have gone down to 0. Make sense? Okay. Now, we also added a feature last time to jump back to the start. Okay. So I'm going to do something here quickly. Our starting point is going to be, so you didn't bring your tea. That's the problem. What happened? Last week we had the pitchers of tea. We got nothing this week.
He's the boss.
Okay, so you're in charge. You're the tea guy.
Because I'm in the bad mood and there's no taste for them. So they have to be, you know, to do something to, you know, to make me happy.
You have to do something to make you happy. Oh, see, now that's creepy.
Yes. Yes. I can tell you a whole lot more creepy things, but we're gonna go ahead with this lesson here.
Okay, so first of all, what we're going to need to be able to do is we need to be able to limit our room size, our cave size rather, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start by looking at that. What are some approaches you took in your homework to limit your cave size? So initially, we need to have a cave of size 4. What'd you do?
I created a method to check the level, and then if it's not level 1, then calculate what level it is at by, what did I do? Taking whatever level it said it was previously, and then multiplying that by 2, and then adding the 4.
Okay,
And
but so right now we randomly generate. So we just had a cave of size 41. Let's run it again. Cave size 35. Let's run it again. Cave size 67. Man, these are big caves. 26. So every single time we run it, we get a different size cave. But we need to guarantee that our first cave is of size 4.
Doing like while loop, do while
Setting.
loop,
Okay.
to make sure when the loans come in fall, and once this condition is successful, then it will exit the while loop.
Okay. So right now, does a cave tell us how many rooms it has in it? It does. Number of rooms is 9, right?
Yeah.
All right. So when we first create a cave, here's the this is the constructor for our cave. So we set the entrance, new room. By the time we get here, we have our number of rooms and we have our number of treasures. We know we need to create the cave at least once. So we use a do while loop. So we'll try to create it once, and then while stats dot num rooms, let's just initially say, is not equal to 4. Do it again. But we do need to make sure we zero out stats dot num rooms is equal to 0. Stats dot num treasures is equal to 0. So these guys zero out each time. Do try to create a cave. We're just going to randomly generate a cave, and we're just going to keep randomly generating a cave as long as it's not size 4.
See, I tried to do that with the random
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing it at that point. I tried to do it at the random part, but it kept saying something was wrong. So I just kind of gave up that train of thought.
So there's our cave of size 4. Run it again. Cave of size 4. Run it again. Cave of size 4. Notice we have a different number of treasures in it, but that's how we can guarantee a cave of size 4. Cave of size 6. So on and so forth. Very memory inefficient, but functional. Very memory inefficient, but functional. We're going to go with this one since we used a lot of time early on to do something, but just out loud, what's another approach we could have taken to make this a little bit more efficient? Not the end of the world for this type of problem, but if we were truly writing the next giant video game, probably want to pay attention to memory a little bit, right? Go ahead.
I created 2 methods. One that, given a room, he gets a random exit of that room, and another that adds a random exit to an existing room. So you give him a node, and it will traverse that node randomly and add a room.
Oh. So you built your cave differently.
Yeah.
Got it. So you just counted down the number of random exits. You picked a random room, and then the exit it would go to 4 times.
Yeah.
And set those exits. So he didn't let it just grow like we let ours grow. You were targeted. But his randomness was built into which room are we adding an exit to. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and actually that wouldn't be horrible to implement either.
Actually, I
What?
did something away. I mean, like differently.
Did you bring tea?
You're not making him happy.
All right, go ahead.
So inside the room, there is a function to put the rooms. So yeah, inside the whole loop, I put like a conditions, F conditions
This guy?
inside the whole loop. Yeah,
Okay.
if they're like, and they have like a variable that goes like counts all levels 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
If the count is still, is down 4, then you have to add more rooms.
Sure. So to mimic that real quick, instead of doing here, we'll just make this Let me just comment this out real quick. And I'll hard code in a 4 for where he's talking. So if I go into room, before we create a new room, if this, I'm sorry, not this, stats dot num rooms is less than or equal to, we'll hard code in the 4 right now, then we'll allow ourselves to do this. That make sense?
Yeah, but still there is issue.
Okay, what's the issue?
The issue is it's gonna build just one exit, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. There will not be like 2 exits for each one, randomly.
Well, a room doesn't have to have 2 exits.
No, but we're gonna talk
No,
like
you
just
don't want
press
it
0,
down.
0, 0, 0 when you go to the triggers, and when you go to the next levels, it will be the same things, but the exit is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 until you get the triggers.
Oh,
You got it? So
because this is the recursive call.
exactly.
It's just going down one branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes down one branch. Never comes back up to do the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You have to add aside.
Well, it should have added a room. Oh, I say if it's less than or equal to 4, allow them to, we need to do if it's just less than 4. That should make it even worse than we just had. Oh, but with this, actually with this in mind, we can, through bad luck, not build a big enough cave. Yeah, so this actually wouldn't work enough of the time. It'll limit larger caves down to 4, but it won't limit, if you have a cave of size 2, it won't make it a size 4. All right, but our solution here was perfectly reasonable. Keep generating caves until it's the right size. Easy, right? Only thing we had to really worry about is make sure that we zero out num rooms and num treasure before we try to do it again. Okay, and we're relying on the garbage collector to pick up our old room too.
We will take 3 sometimes.
Huh?
If you press the flag to run the programs many times, they can show sometimes 3.
Shouldn't. I mean, because we're going to keep doing this while it's not equal to 4, not less than or equal to 4, not equal to 4.
So it has to be 4.
Yeah.
In order for it to get.
It could. If this is a room of size 7, we're doing it again. If it's size 3, we're doing it again. It's got to be this size.
2.5. We're doing it again.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change our cave constructor to take in something called int size. So rather than 4, we'll say size. Now back in driver, we create our cave. We can say, give me a cave of size 4. And there's our cave of size 4. Give me a cave of size 40. Here's our cave of size 40. Make sense? All right, so super convenient to use, horrifically inefficient behind the scenes. We'll just run with it. Okay, so now we have a cave of the appropriate size. Now we need to play the game. So we're going to go ahead and create a object called game. You didn't have to do it this way, but it makes sense to me. So we're going to have a cur level, and this guy will start off at 1. cur size will start off at 4. Right? All right. Let's see, does game actually need to do anything here?
Check the level.
Well, I'll build a constructor anyways. I don't know if we're going to use it, but we'll build it. So when we create a game, well, we will use it right now. I have a start method. Okay, so we'll say what level we're about to start. So when we tell a game to start, we're starting current level. We probably also want to keep track of cave. In fact, I'm going to get rid of this constructor for a second because I don't think we're going to end up using it. Starting current level, then we're going to say this dot cur cave is equal to a new cave of size cur size. Okay, that'll go in, create our cave for us, display the number of rooms in there. Out here in driver, we created our player, and then we entered the cave. We're going to bring this part into our game. So in game, we're starting this current level. We're going to go ahead and build the cave. We know this will give us a cave of the appropriate size. It's going to take sometimes longer than others, but we'll build this one of the appropriate size. Then we'll go ahead and generate our player, although this player doesn't need to be generated here. We'll do that in the constructor. Public game private player, the player, and then we'll say the player, you would like that. Now currently stats does know about our cave, but we also know about it right here. So I'm actually going to change this to say this dot cur cave. They're synonyms. They both point to the same place. All right, so when our game is first created, we have our player. Level is level 1. Cur size is 4. When we start the game, it will build. It'll tell us what level we're starting. Put a little space here. Then it will build us a cave of the appropriate size. Then it will put that player in that cave. Okay, fair enough. So then back out in driver. We should be able to just create an instance of the game and tell it to start. Make sense? So starting level 1, number of rooms is 4, number of treasures is 4. Let's start taking some exits. We probably wanted to go ahead and start telling us the countdown of treasures and stuff, but we'll walk it for right now. Got to go back to the start. That treasure's gone. Row. Either I missed something or, all right, number of rooms, so I'm going to go 0. I'll go 0 again, and I'll go to start, and we don't have any exits.
No, actually that happened to me. So you have to like close it and start that.
Oh, did we implement start?
Yeah, yeah.
do something here real quick. I have a feeling we may have used we can't be that memory inefficient that we're crashing Eclipse.
That did, that have it that the randoms when you check.
Well, we're being really memory inefficient, but I would think the garbage collection would be able to keep up. Okay.
Maybe we need to change the way
Yeah,
we
you are
get
instantiating
paid.
this, and then you start trying to enter the stats quickly. It's different.
Oh, wait a minute. If we go to enter, where is Curcave getting set in stats?
At the beginning, where you maybe go to stats.
Well, but I need to be able to set it. Let's use our reset method there. I want to know, where do we actually set stats.curcave equal to the current cave?
You do that with driver, but you
Oh, that's why. Okay. We did that in driver. Got it.
Click this.
So really, we don't even need to know about the Curcave here. We can just use the one that we've stored in stats. So we'll say stats.curcave is equal to that. And then stats.curcave, the player. Okay, so we'll take our exit to 0. Then we'll go 0. Then we're out. We'll go back to the start. Back, we'll go 0. Now we're going to go 1. We're out of exits. At this point, it should know that we're out of treasures. Okay, so we need to update our display for a room such that it tells us what the current treasure count is, and then also has us constantly checking when a treasure has, or when a cave is empty. Let's go to room. So here's our display. So before we display the obvious exits, let's do a system.out.println treasures left. Now, when there was a treasure, that is, this room has a treasure, we incremented number of treasures in our stats. That's when it was being built. Okay?
You forget to put the
Yeah, I didn't forget. I just put it in the wrong place. I'm going to come back and finish this in a second.
So in the remove treasure, you gotta decrease it.
Well, all we do here in remove treasure is that we
Take it and collect it, right?
collect it, but we don't do anything with it other than just set it to false. So we need to now keep score.
Right.
Okay.
That's why I said, decrease it.
Right. Well, I suppose you could do that. Do we need two variables? Do we want to know the total number of treasures that was in the cave and then how many are left? Or can we just count down?
No, I would say do both.
I come down.
Because
Do we need both?
how are you gonna compare unless you're just gonna see?
Well, we're looking for 0.
Okay.
Yeah, once it gets to 0. So we probably can just use the one that's there. So if this dot has treasure gets set to false, we'll say stats dot num treasures minus minus. All right, treasures left is always going to be stats dot num treasures. So we should now see the countdown. Starting level 1, number of rooms 4, number of treasures 2, treasures left is 2. There was a treasure here in this very first room, so we collected it. So when we first move to this next room, we should have treasures left as 1. No treasure in this room. Go back to 0. No treasure in this room. Go to 0. There was a treasure in this room. Now we'll go to start, and we see there's no treasures left. So what we want to do is we want to have it that as soon as we collect the final treasure, we go to the next game.
So then you create a method for you can win like
Well, at what point are we aware that we collected the last treasure?
you go back to
Minus
Right here, right? Right after we subtract the treasure, if stats dot num treasures is equal to 0, we have a winner. All right. Well, so for right now, let's just print that out, show that that's working. Only 2 treasures. There's 1 in this first room. So now there's only 1 treasure left. There's 1 in the second room, and we have our winner. So we collected all the treasures in this cave. All right. What do we want to happen after we're a winner? What should happen next? Go to the next level. So that means we need to build another level. So current level should go to 1 bigger than it currently is. Current size should go up by 2. And then we need to start the next level. Well, how do we start a level? We call the game start menu. Well, how do we access the game? Well, right now, the game only exists once. When it first got instantiated, it knew its level was 1, current size was 4. We need to update those guys.
Right.
But we also need to be able to tell the game to start. My question is, if I'm here in room, and I know we just had a winner, so now it's time to start the next level, how do I get to the game?
You
call them
in that one first.
Okay, how?
Call them into the game. And send them the second one. The game.
What? There is no game. I don't have access to game here, and I'm in room.
Okay. So you can begin like onion to false if you want to, and the game receive this answer.
A static variable
It may,
somewhere and then you
Okay, we add game to stats.
I think we should add the winner part to stats too
Okay, why?
in a method. That way, once you'll have too much inside a room that's not
Okay,
related to
I get it.
So
So you want to move check for winner
yeah,
outside of room and have it clear in stats.
right.
Okay, I'm okay with that. So you want to have a method here called void check for winner that says if stats dot.
When you're in stats.
Yeah, still not going to hurt to call treasures that way. If that guy is equal to 0, then let's just steal our code from room. Print out winner, and then start our next game. Well, how do we start our next game? We have to tell the game to advance levels. So now we got to go teach game how to advance a level. Okay, so that'll advance it to the next level. And then we tell the game to start. So we have to stats. And we're going to say stats dot cur game dot advance to next level. Then stats dot cur game, and we could actually probably put this into advance to next level. Probably makes the most sense. So after we advance to next level, we'll call this dot start, which should start a new level, build us a brand new cave, and remember in cave, we zero out all the stats right off the bat.
Did you clear out the stuff from room?
So now you want to take this stuff out, and instead we're going to say stats dot check for winner. After we remove a treasure, see if there's a winner.
Did you save it?
All right. So as we're walking through there, if we have a winner, it'll spit out winner. Then we'll update our game to advance to the next level, which will increase the level, increase the room size, call start, which will say starting the next level, create the cave the appropriate size, put the player in that cave. Now we should have a playable game. Starting off with a room size 4. So there are 3 treasures left. We did not collect one in the first room. We did collect one in the next room, but now we're out of room, so we've got 1 so far. 2 so far. Oh, did I win?
Yeah.
Did I win?
Yeah.
So I'm in a new cave now.
I think we should put a space in between there after you win.
You think?
That, I mean, we just totally missed that. Or went
Yeah, we
through it
did.
too fast.
I really thought there used to be a console clear thing.
It was.
Yes, system dot CLS.
This is happening in stats.
I used the
I guess it's not going to hurt anything. 1,000?
I said that. And he comes like in the bottom of the console.
Don't do 1,000.
Like when I finished the first level, and I went with the first level.
It seems like 50 should be enough.
No, just
I
do
use
5.
1,000.
5 would be enough.
Oh, you just want to put a space.
Yeah.
I said anti-backslash.
All right, we can do that.
Backslash B,
Because
not space.
it's gonna be after. I mean, like they're gonna put winner after all of those spaces. So
That's fine. It's just going to give us a little gap. It's not a... So, number of treasures. Oh, there's only one treasure in this cave. Find it yet?
nope.
All right, there's... So, winner. You must enter a valid room number or type quit to start.
It's going back to the.
No, I get it, but shouldn't... We did tell our next game to start.
Yeah.
That's... If there's a winner...
Oh, we didn't do reset after winner.
We shouldn't have to, because when we say advance to the next level, that's in game. Advance to the next level, increases cur level, increases cur size, tells it to start, which then says we're starting a new level, which then says create a new cave, and creating a new cave does a reset. But we're never actually getting to that line. There's room after we call remove treasure.
An error.
We didn't get an error.
Yeah, we did. It was saying something about you have to enter. That was one of our errors that we.
Oh. Number treasures. Okay, so let's go.
So it's probably in a try catch, because that's where we put most of our errors.
All right, so there's our winner. Printed that out.
See, that was the error message.
All right. So in room.
Who called that remove treasures? There is a method that called remove treasures, and when he's done, he gives back again. So,
Well, where are we collecting? Where are we collecting our
Our treasures.
remove treasure? Who calls that?
yeah.
Going to print the player.
Player calls remove treasure.
I believe so.
Yeah.
See, there's the error message. There. There's that in look around. That's why.
Oh, so we really don't need to decrement it. What we can just do is ask the player if they have as many treasures as was in the system. Okay, so a player needs to reset as well. So let's build into player public Boolean actually we don't even need a Boolean. Public void check for winner, because we're going to see if the player is a winner. And this guy is going to say if this dot num treasure is equal to stats dot num treasures. Now we have a winner. So we need to go back into room, and we need to not subtract stats num treasures there. Does the room know about the player? It does not. That's okay though. Because a player calls remove treasure.
Why don't we just point that method check for winner to the stats one instead of it having it inside the player?
We could. Let's just see where player is doing this. So player looks around. If there is a treasure, we tell them to remove the treasure. They increment their stuff. Stats does not know about the player though, right? Because really our check for winner no longer works this way. Well, because we're not looking for it to be equal to 0.
Gotcha.
Let's just dump this right now. So player, if we have a treasure, remove it, increment my number of treasures. Now I want to know, did I win? Did I win? So we're going to say stats dot check for winner, except I'm going to pass it So I'm going to allow a player to return the number of treasures it has. In stats, I'm going to have check for winner take in a player. We're checking to see if that player was a winner, because you want to have the check inside stats, which is fine.
It made it sound like it was bad.
No, it's not bad. It's just a decision. It's fine. So then in player, after
You have to add more conditions.
yeah, I will. So after we remove the treasure and increment our number of treasures, we're going to call stats check for winner. We're going to pass it ourselves. This to allow them to check for the winner. So now stats gets the player. So we'll say if p dot get num treasure is equal to stats dot num treasures. That's if we've collected all the treasures that are in there. Okay, if those things are equal, now we need to go to the next level. What does it mean to go to the next level? Advance to the next level. So that's stats dot curgame dot advance to next level. And let's look at that real quick. Advance to the next level does this, call start.
I got a question.
Yep.
Why did we put it as stats.curgame when advance to the next level is inside of class game?
Because I'm calling it from within stats. So we need to get the curgame variable.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now we do need a player to be able to remove themselves from the because we are displaying the menu here, which is then asking for input. And do you really want to have this in stats?
Fine. No.
Let's see. Okay, so if the players collected all the treasures, we're going to say we need to go to the next level, but we really need to stop our player. So let's make this guy so we don't want him to call display again. Player needs to reset themselves. We don't need to change the player link, but we are going to reset num treasure and num rooms. So we're going to go ahead and give a reset method to player. The reset method is going to set this dot num rooms equal to 0, this dot num treasure equal to 0, and it's also going to set this dot cur room equal to null, effectively pulling us out of the world.
Onto that current level.
Yeah, just
Gotcha.
player is not attached to anything at this point once we call reset. But we're still going to have an issue here in a second, but let's just go one step at a time. So before we go to the next level, we're going to say p.reset. That pulls us out of the world. But who called this method? This method, check for winner, was called by our player.
So if you're no longer in the world, you're no longer a winner.
So it was called right here. And ultimately, we're going to get down to here, which is going to have us display the menu. And we really don't want that.
So how about you do it to where after it checks for the winner, it just
Oh, that's not gonna work.
that it's like it returns.
Well, it can.
Or break. Well, break is only for like a loop.
Man, this is actually going to suck.
Inside that display menu, I have to check. Okay. So before displaying any menus, I'm going to go check if the data has been collected on a specific level.
Well, it was already collected. All right, this will work. This is dumb, but static boolean is winner. Is winner is going to be false initially.
Why don't you make the method return that?
You want it to return a boolean here.
Yes.
Right, but that we're going to have a problem with that. So if we have this guy, get rid of this. If we have this guy return a boolean, we're going to return the boolean after we tell the game to start the next level.
No, you can actually set it before.
No, then return makes the method immediately end.
What you don't do the extra stuff
Well,
afterwards.
we want to advance to the next level, don't we?
Yeah, but you can have it go back to.
We could choose to do that someplace else.
Right.
Start with play.
Okay, so I can reset the player. Actually, we don't even need to reset the player here.
Nope. Just return it back as that person on.
So we can just return that. All right, which means then in player, we can ask the question if this guy is true, if there was a winner.
Then advance to the next one.
Advanced.
Well, then we need to call reset ourselves, then stats.game, cur game, advance to next level,
So what's
and ultimately we need to return.
Oh, okay.
That way we don't drop down here. I don't like the flow through of this. Okay, so we have one treasure to collect. It's a null pointer exception because we reset our player.
Inside a player.
This is going to display menu.
This makes it so this doesn't automatically just happen. So we control when it's going to happen. Two treasures, only should have one left. Same problem. I mean, there's an easy way to get around this. Just start a new game and have game choose the level.
So what I did, because I think I just deal with one method, which is display menu.
Mm-hmm.
So inside this methods, I try to check about the results has been collected inside the results. If that's true, then I can go call the method advanced. If not, then I can go ask the users to continue to enter which exists you would like to go with it. If also
Okay, so you just did it here. You just asked if there's a winner right here.
Display menu. In the display menu, player, class. Yes, I did here. Inside this.
Okay. Where's this getting called?
At the, after you look around. Right there.
But it's only getting called if we didn't have a winner.
Or if there isn't a treasure.
Right, which is fine.
So
But if we did have a winner, we're resetting this player. And then we're telling the cur game to advance to the next level. Cur game advances to the next level by saying cur level goes up by 1, cur size goes up by 2.
How about we reset the player after we go up the next level and increase the size?
Well, we can, but we shouldn't have to. So we can create a brand new player, which is like one step short of just creating a brand new game. So when we say this.start, we're saying we're starting another level. And we're saying cur cave is equal to that. And then we're putting that player into that cave. So where's this dying out?
How about we go to the development?
I just want to know if I'm getting into this right here. All right, 2 treasures. There's one of them. There's the other one. All right, so we're in here. So we definitely got to here.
It's the reset that's getting it.
Then player has a reset. Room, treasure, cur room. That should be fine there too. And we'll prove it that we got through all that. We did, but let's just only one treasure. Okay, so we got through all that. Still kicking. Then we call stats, cur game, advance to next level. We know it's going to get there. Let's see if we get here. Okay, so this is the main thread conflicting with it. So this is all happening inside of we call look around. Look around displays the current room. Finds out if there's a treasure. If there is, we see if there's a winner. If there is, we do the next thing. But if we don't, we should be done. Advance to the next level. It's coming in here. Yeah, let me just trace this row. All right, so, oh, we have no treasures left. Bad luck with treasures. All right, one treasure left. Oh, interesting. So we never got to advance to next level. Inside of player, we got here, but we never got to here. Do we set cur, do we actually set cur game? Oh, we never set cur game. Did we really not set cur game anywhere?
I don't think so.
Or were there no treasures in this one to begin with? Yeah, we're currently not working on no treasures.
There you go. Must have started over.
Oh, I did win. I won the very first time.
Oh.
Where did it say starting level? Oh, we scrolled past it. Yeah, that was our problem the whole time. I wonder how many things we changed before that was the problem.
Oh, you might want to take out the here.
Why? It adds character.
Oh, okay. That's how we do it nowadays.
It's in game. Isn't it?
What?
Where did I put here? It's in
Oh,
player.
it was in game.
It's not in game though right now.
Yeah, it is.
Are you lying?
No,
Are you lying now?
right there. See?
Alright.
You can scroll past
So this should let us go from room to room now, or game to game. Exit's 0, 1 treasure left. We probably need to go ahead and put our, when we have a winner, advance to next level. Our little padding so we can see when this actually happens.
Oh,
All right, well, number of treasures is, well, see, we won't work for rooms with no treasures in it because we'll never actually collect a treasure.
right.
And since we never actually collect a treasure, we never actually get into the code that sees if
If it's a winner.
there's a winner.
Well, you could look at it inside of cave. Right there.
There. Now we won't create caves with no treasures in it.
Oh, man.
It's always got to be at least one. Always got to be at least one treasure.
Oh my goodness.
You could change where you check for the treasure.
We could. We could.
Well, you only got 2 rooms and no treasures for this one. So, you just screwed up the game.
Okay. Number of rooms is not equal to size.
You can only do one at a time.
Oh, we're going to keep doing this, keep creating new ones while it's not equal to size, or just bad programming. Num treasures is equal to 0.
No, you will get like
All right, level 2, number of rooms 6. Oh, our treasures left isn't correct right now. Because we're printing out in room, we're printing out num treasures. And that guy's never going down.
So you have to do-
valuables for the users will be collected with us.
So you should create a variable for
Yeah.
collection. No one needs to listen to me.
You're right. Collected treasures equal to 0. We'll also want to zero that out. Collected treasures is equal to 0 in there. Whenever we collect a treasure, we're going to add 1 to it. So that's in player. Num treasures plus plus stats dot collected treasures plus plus. That's what we'll do inside a look around in player. And then in room, when we're displaying the number of treasures left, we'll say num treasures minus collected treasures. All right. Now this should be showing the right number of treasures. Number of treasures 4. 3 left, 2 left, 1 left, still 1 left, still 1 left. All right, starting level 3. Oh, must have beat level 2. Oh, I did. I beat. I beat level 1 and level 2 without even knowing it. But I just rolled up. It was real.
Right.
Okay, so then we have 8 rooms, 3 treasures though. There's one in this first room, so we have 2 treasures left. Start, go to 1, go to 0, go to 0, go to 0. Oh, we're in a new puzzle now, level 4. So, whatever. Does that solve the problem? Solve the homework-ish?
I put some holes moving, you know,
Huh?
for moving, you know, between each room. So I put like specific move.
Oh, like how many moves you used?
So
Okay. Was that required in the homework?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay. You had to keep track of the number of moves?
I asked you how many moves you would like, and you said it's up to you.
Yeah. Right.
And I decided, you know, like 2 moves. So if we have like 4 rooms, that means you can move 7 times.
Oh, you gave them a limit.
Yes.
I got you. Did I tell you you had to do that?
I don't think so.
Was that in the assignment?
No.
You just did it. You just wanted to do it.
You said moving.
I think he was trying to be difficult.
Well, let's see if that was in the assignment.
I don't even
I mean, it's not wrong. Just,
It wasn't.
are you lying?
He being extra.
He's being extra.
Yes.
All right, we'll take a break here in a few minutes. Just let me finish this up, and then we'll come back and do the our next lesson, which is binary trees. Yeah, I don't say anything about it.
The number of move.
Extend our crawler program such that the game goes on until a user finally loses. The game should start with a map of size 4, then increase by 2 each time. So the first map is size 4, the next is 6, 8, and so on. Winning a cave means that you found all the treasure within the number of moves available. Oh, I get it. I get it. So that's,
He's still being extra.
yeah. I didn't tell you what to do. Just number of moves available could be unlimited. You could put some sort of limit on it. Doesn't matter.
Because most of my classmates asked me, do we have to move? And I said yes.
I got you. Yeah, I want to say maybe in a previous semester I specified like you got 2 times the number of rooms moves or something like that, but I didn't say that this time, so that's whatever. All right, so does this solve it? Can we say this probably solves it?
Yeah.
All right, so let's take about a 10-minute break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about binary trees.
Why must you do this to me?
Well, binary trees are fun.